welcome along to another Tech Tuesday edition. A little bit different this particular episode. We're introducing Wes Wilson, who is a member of the tech support team. He will be spearheading our Tech Tuesday presentations as the default presenter and celebrity within the organisation. That's going to be running the Tech Tuesday presentations. Today he will be talking to you about our perimeter solution, and specifically the Z10 tension sensors. So I'm going to pass it over to Wes and let him get the show on the road.
Hello, everybody. I have done a lot of public speaking and done a lot of things at conventions, so they have asked me to step in and work with the team here, and I'm kind of excited about it. What that means is some of this might seem a little rudimentary from what we normally do, but I'm kind of getting my feet in the water, so I hope this goes over well. We're going to talk about the Z10 tension sensor because I hear that it isn't represented as strongly as it probably should be in a lot of our sales efforts. And I have touched a little bit on some of the tech, but I also need to talk about some of the theories behind why I think the Z10 is important. So first off, when we look at our normal perimeter security discussions, we talk about the three factors: deter, detect, and delay. We want these tools to deter people from having unauthorized access as early as possible, deter them from coming in. Then we want to detect them as early as possible, and then we want to delay what they're going to do as long as they can, so that we can get some response on that. The curb to the core solution is key here because the perimeter is our first point of contact with potential attacks. And it's a chance for us to really get in there and catch people early. Your perimeter security provides protection for your staff. Hey, have a good day. It provides you with, pardon me, I'm really getting spacey, I apologize. It provides protection of your assets. It provides protection of the public when you've got people trying to get into dangerous spaces, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. So moving on, we have some key challenges. First off, how do you protect your property, staff, and information? How do we do it with perimeter security? How do you protect the public from accidentally or intentionally getting into a dangerous environment? How do you minimize wasted efforts from false alarms and environmental challenges? How do you detect intrusions in a timely manner? And how do you ensure intelligent attacks aren't bypassing detection? So let's talk about those a little bit. First off, when you're trying to protect your resources, the perimeter is your first point of contact. And I keep moving my slides. I am so sorry. I'm a little nervous, Paul. This isn't fair.
I'm sorry about that, Wes.
So, thanks. I promise my heart's not beating a million miles an hour. When we talk about perimeter security, one of the first things we need to do is recognize that the things inside need to be protected. So we've got things like let's start with expensive outdoor resources. Things that need to be guarded in a way that doesn't necessarily have a secure wall or a door there. And then additionally, you'll have things like hot wires, you'll have large bodies of water, holes, things like that, things you need to protect the public from accidentally getting onto the property and getting into that. But you're also getting false detections on some of these things. So if you've got an area where your perimeter detection isn't able to tell the difference between a squirrel running across the line, if you've got like a shake wire over a chain link fence, you need to be able to accurately determine the difference between an environmental action and something that is actually an attack on the perimeter. How do you do it timely and respond quickly? We need to make sure that when people are coming in, we're catching them quick, and we're responding quickly. And the other thing is, and this is something I think we're going to talk a little bit about here, how do we deter against intelligent attacks? Defending against somebody, just trying to brute force your wall is one thing. But if you've got an intelligent attack where somebody is trying to get in a way and they understand your system a little bit, I think that the Z10 is particularly useful in this particular case. So let's talk about the Z10. It is a tension sensor, and it provides continuous monitoring of a line that is part of a fence. So you might have an existing fence and then put a line of tension sensors in front of it. And what that does is if anybody attempts to access that fence, the lines will detect any pressure put on those lines. And they could detect both fast and slow attacks. So, for instance, if someone slowly puts pressure on the fence in an attempt to avoid detection, the Z10 does have the ability to monitor that and catch that. You can base the attack on multiple sensors or single sensors. So if somebody steps on one line, you can detect something, or if multiple sensors are being triggered, the Z10 can allow you to detect that. It also is able to differentiate between environmental changes and attacks. There are ways you can set up the system so that if a squirrel is running across your line, it's not going to set off the sensors. It's an HBus device, fully compatible with Command Center. It's self-aligning, so that you're able to have the lines in any particular direction that you want. They don't have to be horizontal, they just have to be taut, and they'll do between 7 kilograms and 60 kilograms of operating tension. So let's talk about some of the circumstances that I was detailing earlier. I call this, why do we need the Z10? So when you're protecting resources, and you're trying to respond to an existing attack, sometimes you might be too late. Paul laughs a lot about how if you have a camera system, it'll be good for watching people run away with your things. What the Z10 does is it allows you to detect the attack as early as possible. If someone is attempting to get over the fence, you will know about that before a PIR or a camera within the boundaries of your fence. Either that you can set up the lines so that they are either at the top of an existing fence or in front of an existing fence. So certain sensitive points of interest require additional protection. For instance, if you've got some kind of a electronics hub or power source or something like that, you might normally just have standard fencing and cameras and things like that, but you might need additional security for particular points where if those points were disabled, the rest of the perimeter security would not offer much protection. There are areas that have difficult visibility, and you can use the Z10 to monitor those areas. Let's say you've got an area where trees are blocking visibility for a camera. You've got a rooftop. Paul gave me for instance, where someone had taken some Z10s and put tension wire across a roof so that if people attempted to go over the roof, that would be detected by the Z10. And those areas would be difficult to monitor with cameras. Additionally, like I said, where health and safety is an issue, letting people onto the property can be very difficult, and you might want to have extra stuff there. But also, let's say you're trying to protect children from going into and out of an area, and some kind of a pulse fence wouldn't be acceptable. Well, you can have a Z10 a set of Z10 tension sensors up that allow you to detect if a child is attempting to climb or get into an area or exit an area, and that doesn't provide danger to those children. One other interesting thing that you can do with the tension sensors, you can put it in areas where electricity isn't really an option. So, for instance, there was a discussion about a culvert where you couldn't really take fencing and take it all the way to the bottom of the ditch because water would travel through that area. But you could put tension line across there so that if someone tried to enter in the culvert, the sensors would pick it up and detect them. On the next page, I've got some of the products that we have for that go along with this kind of fencing. You can see that it has the fence controller there. Did we ever get verification, Paul, on the HBus question that I asked about yesterday?
No, I have not verified that yet.
Okay. But I guess now I will show you a little perimeter fence video that we've put together so that you can see how this works.
One of the things that the Z10 tension sensor is there for is to augment your existing perimeter security. Now that could be a standard chain link fence or ornamental fence or anything like that, and we can just add the Z10s to that and a steel wire, which is what the Z10s utilize as opposed to an alloy wire. You can add just one or two of those tension sensor lines, if you like, to a fence structure to detect any deflection that might occur. So if somebody throws a blanket over to climb, say, an ornamental fence that has that might have the spikes on top, and somebody throws something over that, if you position that single wire across the top of that in such a way that it will get a deflection as somebody did that, that would be one application that would be less intrusive from a public visibility point of view. But it's also designed to integrate fully in with your standard monitored pulse fence, so that, or should I say, such that if we have a monitored pulse fence where somebody is interacting with the fence, they're going to get those 3Ds that Wes talked about, right? We're detecting by them, if they attack it in a regular manner, they grab a hold of a couple of wires, they're going to get a shock from the electric fence or from the monitored pulse fence. And that's a deterrent as well, so they'll release that. They see the signage and they visually identify that, hey, that's not just a regular fence, that is a monitored pulse fence. Most of the time, there's some opportunity, so people will step away from that and move on to the next easier target that doesn't have a structure like that defending it. But the extra layer that the Z10 introduces is, to Wes's point, that if somebody is going to design an intelligent attack and they've figured out that I can put rubber gloves on and I can grab two wires and I can deflect them, and then I can have a mate of mine climb through or cut the chain link to create a hole that we can then climb through while we're holding these wires apart. If I get enough deflection, a small person can climb through and gain access to the facility that way. If they're that clever, the Z10 is the solution to defeating that, because if we've got the deflection in there, as soon as they start to pull those wires across, we're getting that immediate detection that something is going on, and we're adding to that. So we have the additional anti-climb layers, and you don't necessarily have to have a Z10 sensor on every line of your fence. You could put one at the bottom, one at the midpoint or around a sort of crouching level, and then one at the top of the fence line to detect against those climb or the higher attacks. So you can be a little bit more prudent about where you actually implement the Z10s across the fence line. So there's a number of interesting things there. Now, Wes mentioned that they're an HBus device, and so being a Gallaher HBus device, it means that we can fit up to 80 sensors on a single controller. Now, the question that Wes had rightly asked, which I actually don't know the answer to, and we'll find out the answer to it and pop it in the chat here post this session, is whether or not we require a fence controller to be in the loop to manage those HBus devices. So we'll get confirmation on that. But it is a standard Gallaher HBus device. Now, the added benefit, aside from all of the communication benefits that you get with the HBus protocol, is the fact that that's supervised. So if somebody actually tampers with the sensor itself while on the fence line thinking that they're smart and they're going to defeat that, the minute that they disable that, we'll also get alarms, right? And so we're generating that extra detection capability there. So it's a very difficult sensor to defeat that's deployed. So there's a number of significant advantages that come with the Z10 sensor, either deployed in isolation to solve particular challenges or problems. And I think Wes mentioned, kids and students. It often comes up where we have K through 12 talking with us that they love the capabilities that a monitored pulse fence would offer, but there's no way they're going to put a monitored pulse fence up around a school site, right? And that's understandable. Nobody wants the visuals of a monitored pulse fence right up against where kids are playing and interacting. However, you could deploy Z10 without the pulse element to it, right? So we don't need to send any voltage down the fence line, but we can deploy the Z10 as a perimeter protection device that still gives a good visual indicator that there's security for devices there, but they will actually provide us the benefit of the detection if anybody tries to attack or climb that fence. So there's some really, really good solutions out there for different applications of where we can take this technology. So I'm going to kind of pause there, and I will say today's presentation was more about introducing a product that we've had in our product stable for a long, long time, but not many people are aware of, not many people discuss. And we just really wanted to give a little bit of visibility to that as a product. And I'm going to open up to any questions that people might have. So since it's such a small group, we might just turn on mics and let people ask anything. And otherwise, I'll thank Wes for his presentation and time, and the first of many of the Tech Tuesday sessions as he moves forward and stepping into this position. So yeah, I will hand over to questions.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. We can hear you. Welcome to the channel, Fred.
So, sorry, I'm in the car, and I guess that my microphone didn't transfer. Quick question. So when you say that we can put 86 or 80 of those sensors, is every sensor on the fence one of them? So
that's a good question, Fred. So yeah, when I mentioned 80 sensors, that's an H-bus limitation, right? So that's the maximum number of devices for an H-bus. The Z10s do have get put into sensor groups, and you will break them up by zone on a real fence deployment, right? So if you think about a fence structure, and we have one end of a tension span, so a physical span of the fence, right? Only one side needs the Z10s, and so the number of Z10s in that zone and that group is going to be dictated by the number of wires that you have on that fence. If you're putting a wire on every Z10, right? And then you would group that by the controller that's managing that, or the fence controller that's managing that fence zone, which would in turn be managed by a specific 6,000, 7,000 controller. So that's how it would actually logically break down. You wouldn't necessarily go out there and say, hey, I want to chain together 75 Z10 sensors all off this thing, because you lose some of the fidelity of the detection range on that, right? You don't know, well, whereabouts, where is that sensor and why did it trip? So you want to keep that in mind when you're actually designing these. But the benefit there is that, because again, you can have one Z10 or two or three Z10s on a fence line. You don't need to have, if it's a 45 wire fence, you don't have to have 45 Z10 sensors on every wire, because you're looking at that anti-climb capability, right? So you can position, or even do like groups of 2 or 3 sensors strategically positioned across the fence line, so that it's unlikely somebody is going to be able to breach the fence without interacting with the position of one of these taut wire locations. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Okay, well, thanks everybody. We'll wrap it up, and appreciate everybody's time.
Thank you.